Oh, great. So really great to be here. I think it's appropriate that we start off a conference or a session about social change with a song by Michael Jackson, who encourages us all, if we want to make the world a better place, we have to look in the mirror and make a change, which unfortunately he took way, way too far, as we know. But that song was also another $2 donation, thank you very much, to United Way Canada. Our agency, Manifest, is the official conference sponsor of the word change. That's the word change, of course. And every time it's spoken that we make a $1 donation, we're getting behind that word for a lot of reasons, mostly because of what we've been doing for over 30 years as a company, has been working to get the hardest thing in the world happen with people, and that's to make people change. Of course, we're all in that together. And we do it through ideas and strategies and communications. And sometimes we do it ourselves.
Great. So while we've seen lots of great changes over the years, for today's presentation, we're going to focus on 4 standout social change campaigns that have gone on to transform the very game of change itself over the past 40 years. These landmark campaigns started out as regular campaigns, but essentially turned into amazing phenomenons, and in all cases became more influential for the new doors that they opened than for the change that they made themselves. So they've changed the game, and we want to share with you today why. But how do you look at 40 years of social change and determine these standouts? There are thousands and thousands of great successes and tons of criteria to consider.
Well, the neat thing is actually there is a proprietary tool that Manifest has developed to do this. In fact, we used it for this exercise, and it's a great success. So you're going to see the results of that today. We're going to share it with you. It's got a long, kind of academic name as well. The name is it's the Wide Envelope General I'm going too fast. Okay, sorry. The Wide Envelope General Universal Endorsement and Evaluation of Social Significance. Of course, we always use the acronym for this proprietary tool. And actually, we guessed, but that joke would have been 2 letters too long. So that's why we stopped there.
So in all seriousness, we did actually have some genuine criteria that we used to develop this list. And first off, what we wanted to share with you today are campaigns that are unexpected. So we purposefully didn't choose some of the classic campaigns that we're all incredibly familiar with, like Participation, or Truth, or Slip, Slop, Slap. Instead, we wanted to focus on perhaps ones that you haven't thought about in a while. We also have 4 campaigns from the past 4 decades, and we'll start with the 70s, which obviously is the birth of social marketing as a discipline. We also wanted to share a global perspective so that we have 4 campaigns that we're going to be sharing with you from around the world. And really what these 4 campaigns showcase is that there are universal truths to apply to everything. And then finally, we really wanted to focus on 3 important elements: media, metrics, as well as the message. From a media perspective, we wanted to take advantage of some breakthrough channels that really transformed the game for the first time. We also looked at message. So we took a unique approach to engaging in audiences. And finally, metrics. So did it all make a difference?
So, okay, let's get started. We're going to go across the ocean, actually, to a nation that this particular campaign was really a landmark in using television as an important medium in getting through to people and getting a social change message out. And it also started a unique tradition of really bold breakthrough campaigns from a country that continues to change the game. It's amazing how these songs all have, it's incredible how they actually work with what I'm saying. I don't know how that happened. But that, of course, was David Jones, who changed his name to David Bowie to make his change happen and changed his look every 3 weeks. That was his thing. Now, in the UK, around this time, what was happening was social marketers, or nascent social marketers, really were taking note of international mass media campaigns that were starting to show incredible results and are in the new era of the game, so to speak. Things like road safety in Australia and drinking and driving, actually, in the United States. And in the UK, they had a serious need to do something about smoking.
Great. So in the early 70s, the Health Education Council embarked on their first mass media social marketing campaign to encourage people to quit smoking. And as Jim said, it was one of the first times that the UK took advantage of television as an important medium in getting their social change message out. And the good news was that 91% of UK homes actually had a television, and high viewership was key here. So it was also, as we just heard, the age of glam, where platform boots, quiff haircuts, flares, perms, and later the visceral reaction to all of this, punk. And cigarettes were at the height of fashion. And this was the core human insight that really drove the Health Education Council's approach. So instead of telling people to quit smoking and telling them that it was bad for them, they repositioned smoking and took the social cachet out of it. Basically, they turned it on its head and made it something that was ugly instead of cool. So let's take a look at one of their first television spots. And again, there's a little bit of quality issue here. Remember that this was a 1970s campaign, and we're going to share it with you.
Hundreds of dead ends go into each bottle for that unique aroma of stale cigarettes. One splash and you'll smell like a 20-a-day man. Remember, when you smell of stub, you'll never have problems with girls again.
Stop, don't you green, it's succeed.
And then here's the second commercial as well.
What's the matter with you anyway?
It's not me.
Don't you like kissing?
Oh, look, there's my friend.
Sometimes it isn't only your health that cigarettes damage.
Hello. Yeah, he's nice. Oh, he's very nice. But his breath smells like you get lung cancer just kissing him.
Those two women could be like in Coronation Street today. That is something that, and that is one of the reasons people often will talk about UK advertising, and often particularly social change advertising, and they go, why is it really so powerful and effective and the best in the world? Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. One of them is because it's always been, there's a gigantic competition there among people to get it right and to really keep moving it forward. It's always direct, it's always bold and immediate. There's sort of a pub culture you feel in the advertising in terms of the way people, between the advertiser and the audience, there's really a closeness. You know, they're all in this together and they all speak the same sort of language. And another simple thing over the years, people go, why are they better? They seem better. Well, they're longer. Sometimes the commercials are longer as well. And it's true. It's a simple thing. It makes a big difference. To that point about boldness and directness, there's the next thing we want to show you. In 1974, this was pretty amazing to come out. This was an ad about, for the first time ever, making the link between cigarettes and reproductive health. And in this particular campaign, rates among women who were smoking and were pregnant dropped from 39 to 29% pre and post campaign. So very effective use of the campaign.
So what can we learn today from this campaign? There's a couple lessons that we wanted to share with you. And the first one is this notion of focus on a human truth. You know, just because you have something to say doesn't mean your audience is actually going to pay attention. So you've got to find and build around a core insight that's going to drive your target to change. In this case, they took the cool out of smoking, and that really started to help motivate people to start paying attention to this issue and to start to quit smoking.
The other thing is be bold, do it boldly. We always like to say that nobody wakes up in the morning looking for your ad. Gee, where's that car ad I got to see today? You've got to stop people, you've got to hit them in their tracks. In the case we showed you a few seconds ago, the print ad, it was originally tested and approved, and it was just about to go with the woman wearing clothes, but the creative team realized it would have more impact if it was done the way it was finally done. And they got the client boldly and bravely to agree to do it. It made sense to do it as well. I don't think it was arbitrary because it's a basic advertising or a basic communication thing. We want people to focus on the product. The product was the baby. Let's make sure people immediately get that and immediately feel that. So the ad might have been right when the woman was wearing her clothes, but when they showed her unclothed, it was good. It was more effective, and usually good trumps right in terms of, yeah, you can say the right things and make the right cases, but if something hits you on a visceral, emotional level, it's going to be more effective. And this is something we're going to talk about at the end of our presentation as well.
All right, so let's move into the 80s. So yes, that song is going to be in your heads for the entire afternoon. And despite the song, Jenny did in fact change her number. In fact, Jim called her this morning, and the person that answered said some things that we probably shouldn't repeat here. So this next example that we're going to show you is an anthem that truly paved the way for pop culture and celebrities to have a major impact on social issues. And we're buffering.
It has to stop on that face, of course, right? Do you know what song we're talking about here? Well, thank you, Toronto's amazing broadband connection, by the way. We want to applaud the city's remarkable. Anyway, okay, so this is USA for Africa, and we are the world.
I could sing, but I probably shouldn't.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you want to move forward? Because it looks like it's not playing. Okay.
So
if anybody don't recognize this,
this is the
welcome,
We Are the World.
Welcome to Planet Earth.
Yeah.
And, you know.
Okay, so like what Elizabeth Taylor did for AIDS, the celebrities behind USA for Africa changed the way people thought about as well as responded to global poverty and hunger.
Will it move forward? Great, okay, so anyway, this song, but more importantly, the celebrities who sang it helped create a new level of global consciousness and helped create that persists today and is growing and growing. And that continues to be relevant. So we see examples through celebrities, you know, the idea of celebrities.
Oh, wow.
Oh, there we go. Great.
When we heed a certain
Sorry.
call, when the world must come together as one. There are people dying. Oh, when it's time to lend a hand to life, the greatest gift of all. We are the children. We are the ones who make it brighter than day. So let's start giving.
So timing was everything on that one. We apologize.
So again, this campaign, and particularly this media effort, this effort, helped create a new level of global consciousness that is still relevant today. We see Bono and international aid. We see George Clooney and Darfur. We see that kind of thing happening in terms of celebrities getting behind things and making the world aware of them, so to speak. To date, this campaign has raised over $100 million for this effort, poverty in Africa. But more importantly, what it did was, it was one of the first times really that it sort of helped people realize, have a different take about this situation and about Africa in terms of not being someplace a zillion miles away where I don't really know anybody or have to care about it. Two, holy mackerel, we're all one big world. My actions can impact there and I can do something.
So what lessons can we learn from this example? Number one, you don't have to be first, because certainly this song wasn't. It wasn't the first cause-related song or even the first big concert. But what it was the first and major celebrity sensation. And it truly did set the stage for how pop culture influences social issues, and it continues to do so today. Secondly, it's also really important to think about authorship. When you're crafting your message. This worked because people we idolized told us to care about this issue, and we believed them. Up until this point, this was an issue that was talked about on the 6 o'clock news, and it was something that we just really didn't feel we needed to pay attention to. So it took literally the biggest celebrities and stars in the world, especially the celebrity-crazy US and US media, in order for us to start to pay attention on this issue.
And of course, they did so in a medium that everybody understands, which is a song. Who delivers your message and how is just as important as what you say. And this, of course, doesn't mean that usage of celebrities is an automatic. A lot of nonprofits and a lot of efforts do that automatically. And it doesn't really, there are many reasons not to do it, of course. And usually because it tends to overshadow the message and the rest of the essentials of creating powerful marketing communications, et cetera, are kind of overlooked because we've got this great person who's going to do this thing. But it really has to be a harmony of spheres, which is what this was. Something else that also really worked in this particular effort is something that is often overlooked by what we'll call the creative community, so to speak, or agencies or that sort of thing, is the power of sentimentality and good old schmaltz. When this effort came out, there were huge detractors from all over because who decried the commerciality of it, which is to what we say, or to this we say, duh, no kidding. It has to be commercial. It has to work like this. This is all about raising awareness and raising money, so the ingredients were perfect. And again, an example of something that was good versus something that might be right. Okay, and speaking of sentimentality, and here come the 1990s.
Follow the Moskva down to Gonky Park, listening to the wind of change.
Of course, that's a song by the Scorpions, you know, the heavy metal band, their gods. We were actually going to play their other song, Rock Like a Hurricane, but it turns out that song's being used like in 6 other sessions today in the conference for some reason. So I think it would be overkill, so that's why we picked this one.
Excuse us for the schmaltz. So our next example is a little bit different from the others because it forces us to think about how change is actually accomplished, not just communicated. It's also an example of change making that isn't about marketing at all. So in 1987, Australia released a report that stated that 40% of cycling accident victims that weren't wearing a helmet would have had an improved outcome had they have been wearing their helmets. So to get this message out, the Royal Australian College of Surgeons started playing a much more aggressive advocacy role in garnering public awareness, attention, and acceptance for the idea of mandatory helmets. And this was the same group that had done a tremendous job in terms of securing mandatory seatbelt usage, as well as encouraging motorcyclists to be wearing bike helmets as well. And they truly felt that encouraging bicyclists to wear a bike helmet was truly the third major step in getting injury prevention on the radar of everybody. So they undertook public opinion research and showcased that the public actually supported this issue. They also used the research to champion the need for a new law. And the result was that in 1993, Australia was the first country in the entire world to introduce mandatory bike helmets, especially for children. And some of the results were pretty immediate. So 1 year following, in Victoria, data showed that a 23% as well as a 28% reduction in the number of bicyclists either killed or admitted to hospital reduced very, very significantly. So these are pretty amazing and pretty immediate results.
So some key lessons out of this really important example. Number one, something that's been said already a lot today, I think, and it bears repeating, social marketing is more than just marketing. Sometimes it isn't marketing at all. We like to say that sometimes the answer isn't an ad or a campaign or even a program or a website. Sometimes it might be a letter or a phone call or a meeting or a conference, whatever. And sometimes agencies don't like to say this and don't like to hear this, but sometimes that's the truth. Sometimes you need that, you need a different approach entirely outside of marketing. You need that, what Andrea is going to talk about in a minute as well. You need that systemic approach. They also, absolutely, oh, wonderful. Wonderful.
We're not finished.
And they also did something at that time that has been replicated many times since, which they leveraged an unexpected champion to get the change done, which was the College of Surgeons. And we've seen, that was really one of the first times really that was done in a big way. We've seen over the years the power of the U.S. leveraging the Attorney General, or the Surgeon General, C. Everett Koop, to get that kind of, became a household name, so to speak. So an unexpected champion can really break through the clutter with that legitimacy they afford. But again, sometimes you have to realize that the answer might not be what you've been thinking about. The answer might be something a lot smaller, a lot more targeted, a lot more intimate, and maybe even more effective.
So let's take a look at a second lesson here that Jim just alluded to, and this is the notion that policy changes are just as important as individual ones in creating change. In this case, legislating behavior change was extremely effective in terms of reducing harm, and we heard this morning that upstream communications is so critical. And in this case, it truly did advance social change so much quicker than just having encouraged people to start wearing helmets. So we've seen the importance of policy changes as important social change catalysts across many, many issues throughout our time. If we think about smoking, if we think again about seatbelt usage, if we think about trans fats, the list goes on and on. So marketing is more than just about the actual traditional and non-traditional elements of marketing. So the last example that we're going to show you is from the 2000s. And again, here comes the song.
Well, I wish I could change your mind. Wish I could change your mind. But you're gonna go, leaving me behind. I wish I could change your mind.
That's an artist named Ray LaMontagne, and we picked him because less that the songs are famous or well known, but more the fact that this is an artist who has become very, very successful by his songs have been used in TV shows and popular TV shows and things like that. And the next example we're going to talk about is how to get at people and get at success through sort of attacking a different medium or coming at things through a completely different way, through a different medium.
So exactly that. So while the creative that we're about to show you was a very, very famous campaign, that's only one part of its success. It's really how it seized on a major new communications channel in order to get its message out and really to make it a true sensation. It also signaled the rise of corporate social responsibility. So let's take a look at a campaign here from Canada. It started off in 2006, and it really was a 75-second film to promote their newly created Dove Self-Esteem Fund. What they did was they spent $50,000 creating a video, and instead of running it as a TV spot in terms of a regular television commercial, they decided to post it on this amazing new platform that had just launched the previous year. And it got this incredible attention for the simple fact that it allowed regular folk to post and view what they wanted. Let's take a look at this. Oh. What a letdown.
Wow. Thank you to our sponsor, TELUS. Anyway, okay, well, I guess we're going to, it'll play in a minute or so. Should I continue? Sure.
You can go back. We'll come
I'll
back.
go back. We'll come
Yeah.
back to it. We're talking about, I think many of you are familiar, you'll probably see it in about 75 seconds or so.
Yeah.
It's called Dove, it was called Evolution, and it's a video that shows a woman walks into a model walks into a recording studio or a photographic studio. It looks like any young woman on the street, and is photographed and then digitally manipulated. You see her being manipulated for 30 or 40 seconds, and she's turned into a beautiful, fantastic spokesmodel sort of thing. And the reason that, one of the reasons really that this particular thing just connected in such a gigantic way wasn't the fact that it was vilifying the beauty industry, which had been vilified for years, of course, you know, by so many different people on so many platforms. It was the fact that, again, that harmony of the spheres, it hit at a time when YouTube was exploding, when people, the general people, had the power to themselves get involved in that platform, where people were experimenting with Photoshop and technology and video themselves. So they were so in tune with this particular thing that they were showing, which was kind of pulling the curtain back and showing here's how it's done. So people were at the right time when they themselves were fascinated with technology as well. Along comes this thing that's about that. That's about the use of technology to make us rethink things. A very simple idea, though. You know what? Everything you think about beauty is being manipulated. That's a simple idea, but the reason it really connected. As well, the way it looks, which we hopefully will show you one day, is the way it looked, here's a big company with probably $300-400 million marketing budget, if not more, making a little video that looks like it was made for $1,000 that anybody could make. And that's part of the key as well in terms of how it looks. This great big consumer goods company doing this piece of guerrilla propaganda and slipping it in there sort of thing. And that's one of the reasons it connected with people, because it just felt like, hey, they're on our side. It's not slick. Interestingly enough, previously at the Super Bowl, they spent just to put the ad, $2.5 million and millions more to do this huge epic in the same campaign, and didn't have even a third of the response in terms of social media or hits on the Dove website that this one did. Again, I think partly for those reasons. Again, so yeah, just in terms of this particular campaign, relatively small investment of $50,000, $150 million in earned media. This is one of the first examples where this sort of thing was happening. I think today it would be even more. Oh, here we go.
So let's look at some of the lessons that we can learn from this example. And the first one is that corporations actually can be very powerful social change agents. You know, this is a perfect example of the rise in corporate social responsibility, and truly gone are the days when companies really were only limited to the body shop that was known for doing good and doing some great things in the mid-90s. We're seeing more and more companies really play an active role. Also gone are the days when companies were seen to only do good things to hide bad things that they'd done. You know, today's customers are expecting companies to be good corporate citizens, and they will certainly reward those for being that as well. You know, for Dove, if we take a look at some of their results, you know, Jim shared a few of them, but truly this campaign is credited for double-figure growth sales in Dove product, as well as Unilever reported that its overall sales in the period following the launch of this commercial or this film rose by 5.8%. So for the company, that was some pretty good news. In terms of for the issue, this campaign got people talking about the issue of self-esteem and media literacy like never before. Certainly win-win. If we take a look at a second lesson, you know, promotions need programs. If we take a look at this spot, and if it was only a viral spot, we'd say, you know what, that was a pretty good marketing success. But what made this a social marketing success was the comprehensive program behind this promotion. You know, the Campaign for Real Beauty had a whole suite of international programs for girls, women, as well as mentors. You know, I'm a Girl Guide leader, and I actually, when this campaign first came out, I ordered all the materials, had a number of sessions with my girls, and it was a huge hit. It was an issue that girls wanted to talk about, and Dove actually had the materials in order to support and facilitate that conversation. So these workshops, these workbooks, these amazing reports that they were putting out there made sure that Dove's commitment was more than just a superficial commitment to the cause. So while I just talked about the need for promotions needing programs, programs also need promotions. Far too often we spend so much time creating a great program, but if nobody knows about it, it's all for naught. So we really need to make sure that we invest as much time in the promotional strategy of our programs as in the actual development of them.
So we're going to wrap up here. We've shared some you know, really powerful and important campaigns, and some, of course, some important lessons, but some really, really neat creative too. And we thought we'd leave you with a kind of a checklist that we use, or we like to use, which is we call the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Creative. And it's sort of things that we think about and things that I think you can use when both creating and really evaluating as well the things that are being shown to you, the things, the tactics and the creative and the ideas that you're going to be presented with and or creating or thinking of using. So some points we kind of made earlier today, and you might hear them again, but some are new as well. So let's quickly go through them. Number 1, tell a truth. Now, most effective communications, this is our first thing I think that we talked about today, are kind of built on an insight about human nature, a truism, a fact about our world that gets people's heads nodding and opens their eyes. You know, beauty is manufactured, helmets save lives, kissing a smoker is like licking an ashtray. That was a big quote. That those sort of truths that you can use that suddenly people intuitively know, and you can build on that. Number 2, trust your gut. Often when people are evaluating and looking at work, can you go ahead?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Trust your gut.
I was so fascinated by what you were saying.
Oh, isn't that nice? Often when people are looking at work and evaluating work, they'll have a visceral reaction and they'll immediately discount it. And unfortunately, very often, it's the negative visceral reactions that people trust versus the positive ones, which is unfortunate because really, if something moves you, people think when they're evaluating work or looking at work or creative, they have to be analytical and strategic, and I've got to think, is this going to move this and this going to move that? No, you don't. You really got to trust your gut, because if it moves you, it'll tend to move others as well. Again, it's unfortunate that people tend to trust the negative ones, but not the positive one that really moved them. They get a sudden feeling of doubt, which is unfortunate because if something doesn't move you, it probably won't move the market. This is another one we talked about briefly, right versus good. In the old days of Hollywood, there used to be an expression when a movie was made and it didn't really connect on an intellectual or emotional level. They'd say, how was it? They said, and people would go, well, they filmed the script. in creative and advertising, that kind of stuff that we do, they filmed the brief would mean presenting something that might make a good case, might even be persuasive and have all the right content, but it doesn't, again, affect or hit or have that human truth to it, so it's not going to be effective because it's not going to be good. The fourth one is take the subway. This is something that occurred to me. I live in this city, Toronto, and one day on a Sunday, I was on the subway and I looked around in the car and I realized, you know what, I'm probably the only person in this car that was born in Canada. You know, it was a very, very multicultural city and country we live in. So when you're communicating to a wide group, it's really important when you're, particularly in messaging, but in everything you're doing, to really make sure your ideas aren't riding on cultural notions or cliches or turns of phrase or ideas that a lot of people just aren't going to get, period. Like, we are the world. Duh. Everybody understands that. Everybody gets that. Don't wimp out is the next one. Again, we talked about, you know, nobody waking up in the morning to look at your work. It's not about being provocative. It's about not getting ignored. One sentence. If you can't explain what you want to do in one simple sentence, then it's not simple and it's probably not good. So smoking actually makes you uncool. Women's ideas of beauty are actually manipulated. Simple, simple ideas. And finally, tell me something I don't know. This is one of the best ways for your communications to make friends. When they inform people, you know that when you're smoking, your baby is smoking. That really, really connected with people. I didn't know that. Wow, that's a really simple, effective, smart way to start to win people over when you can do that for them.
So this session promised to be a fun, fast, and insightful look at the past 40 years. Hopefully we delivered against that. Hopefully we also had a chance to share a few lessons that you can learn and take home as you work to advance social change. And the final comment that we wanted to make was we've just made 64 mentions of the word change, so we're donating $64 to the United Way of Canada. And there we go. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think we're done.
Any
questions? Okay. Oh, sure. Hello.
Hey, my name is Salim. I'm from Toronto Public Health. So just in the spirit of your fourth habit, which is taking the subway or the bus, I noticed that a lot of the examples you gave on the social media campaigns were from the United States, Australia, the UK. Is there anything that is inspirational from the global south, from countries that aren't, you know, non-Western countries, countries outside of those, that you can give as examples of?
I can think right off the top of my head of something that I know in some of the Latin American countries have been used to tremendous success. And it talks to talking to people in a language and a medium that they totally get. They have done gigantic work with what they call a tela romana, with like comic books and like the soap operas that people read. These have impacted. These have been used for things like, you know, for teaching women, particularly aimed at women, for teaching them about how to leave an abusive relationship. For AIDS prevention has been gigantic for that as well. So that's an example of something that I've seen has been tremendously effective and also really innovative, and also talks to a couple of things we talked about. You know what? You don't need to do a big TV commercial. It doesn't need to look fancy. Here it is. Get it in their hands. You know, watch them. The gentleman who spoke before us talked about watching people, you know, and then learning from that. Well, that's an amazing example of that, I think. Oh, okay.
Just when you were going through the various periods and you got to the YouTube example, one of the things that occurred to me that I've often used in my class is the use of regular media content, and it ties to this notion of using soap operas in a lot of developing parts of the world to get across family planning stories and a number of other things that are built within the soap operas that the key target audiences watch every day. The one in my classroom is the teen pregnancy campaign. And they've spent just huge amounts of their budget talking to script writers and people in television with programs aimed at young women mainly, and young men, but building the storylines because they're looking for something to say in the darn programs all the time. And they're quite interested in doing sort of socially responsible things that advance their plots. And I think that's an important trend that we could use in a lot of other programs.
And I think that's a perfect example of how you're seeing, the commercial marketing world was the first to kind of enter the world of product placement. So you watch American Idol and, it's the Coca-Cola glass in front of them. So it's using some of those amazing breakthrough opportunities that are already out there in the world. How can we as social marketers use that insight as well? Let's take a look at, We Are the World and USA for Africa. That wasn't about a television commercial. It was about popular songs of the day and really using that medium in order to break through with its audiences. And it doesn't have to be just traditional advertising to do that. Great. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.